Your support helps us bring you programs you love. Go to wyomingpbs.org, click on Support, and become a sustaining member or an annual member. It's easy and secure. Thank you.
The holidays can be a stressful time for all of us. Now, imagine the family gatherings from the perspective of your pets. Faces in the home that haven't been around for a while, travel, new places to sleep, and what if Santa brings a new puppy to put under the tree on Christmas morning? We hope to make the holidays pet stress-free with advice from veterinarian Amy Stockton and her staff next on Wyoming Chronicle. As the holidays approach, there's always lots to do, but sometimes we may not think of pets, at least they may not be top of mind. And that's what we want to talk about today, are ways we can plan to make the experience for our pets great for the holidays. And we're with Amy Stockton. She's a veterinarian here at the Stock Doc. Amy, welcome to Wyoming Chronicle.
Thanks for having me.
And Whitney Fonts. She's a vet tech here at the Stock Doc. So welcome to you both.
Thank you.
We want to talk about a lot of things with pets, and there's so much to discuss. But let's maybe talk about that family that's getting the pet for the first time, okay. Amy, and I'll start with you. We can talk about a lot of things. Where should families maybe look to find a pet? Let's start there first.
All right. Well, we are always going to direct new families to the local animal shelter. The local animal shelter is where lost and unwanted pets go, pets that need a forever home and may not have an opportunity to get one. So go look at your local shelter. They're gonna, here in Riverton, our animals are all spayed, neutered, vaccinated, dewormed. They even are on a special supplement to give them the right nutrition because they may not have had it before they get to the shelter. So go check them out, see what they've got there. They have all different kinds of breeds. You also know that you may come home with a dog who's been exposed to some kind of illness before it goes to the shelter too. So you have to know that there may be some issues that you have to deal with down the road, but it's very rare. So go look there first.
So Whitney, what should a family look for? Like a large pet, a small pet, maybe breeds that might work better with children. What should they be thinking about?
It's really based on your home life. If you have small children, you have to be cautious on what breeds you get, and if you're adopting a pet, be sure that there's some history involved where you know what their history has been. Are they afraid of children? Are they okay with your cat that you already have at home? Anything like that. Do you have a fenced yard? Do they need one? There's a lot of things to take into account as far as...
the shelter will know those.
The shelter usually
yes.
knows.
Mm-hmm.
And are there shelters all over Wyoming?
Absolutely,
all over.
Yes.
I think that's important. Do shelters always understand the history of the animals that they got, or some they may not?
Some may show up on their doorstep.
They literally show up on the doorstep. A few of them are surrenders. A few of them are someone who's passed away and had nowhere to take the pet, and then they take them in. A lot of them are picked up on the street and show up there, and they're friendly and they want to adopt them out. So there is no history.
I know. Go ahead, Amy.
But the shelter is going to do their best to kind of figure out if they like cats, if they like dogs, are they okay with kids. So they're going to have different volunteers who walk them and kind of get the lay of the land with the pet before they send them out the door.
No, in our family, we always had a discussion about whether a pet for a senior parent was a good idea or not. A lot of times with Christmas, we think of kids and the pets, but I know that families too think about maybe pets for maybe mom or dad that may be living alone.
Okay.
Is that always a good idea, or maybe there are some times when it may not be a good idea?
Okay, so I feel like it's always a good idea when that senior person needs a companion, somebody who will be there when somebody else is working or making the food or grocery shopping, somebody who can be there and give them the attention and feedback that they need. So a senior is going to be petting that animal, working their arthritic fingers.
I'm on the fence on either of them because there are some seniors that may not have the capacity to remember if a dog needs meds. So that has to be taken into account, I think.
The caregiver may have to help with the care of the dog.
The care of the dog. So don't get a senior dog.
And let's talk about maybe some appropriate breeds for seniors.
Okay.
What might you recommend if somebody's you know, that might be a good idea for my parents.
Okay.
I'm a fan of small dogs for seniors, just simply because they're easier to take care of on one respect, and they're a lot more lap friendly, I think, for them to be able to have that companion in their lap. And some people are just big dog people. I would go with a lab or
Something
more of
that's
a-
not too overly energetic.
yeah, not
certainly
an overly energetic lab, but generally labs are pretty easygoing and content to lay next to you in your chair. And
The living environment, the space, whether it's a small apartment, a larger home with a yard, without a yard, that must be taken into account as well.
And your veterinarian can help you make those determinations too. If you go and you say, this is what I have, what am I looking for? What will fit into my household? The veterinarian can help you with that. The shelter staff can help you with that. A reputable breeder would be able to help you with that, because they'll kind of know how their little puppies are going to be when they grow up, because they've had others that went off to homes and they get photographs back. So that's a reputable breeder, one that follows their puppies as they get older.
We're bringing a pet into the house. Okay, my daughter's just asked and finally going to go get the dog, and here comes the dog, and I really haven't thought about much else. How should we prepare our home for that pet for the first time?
Okay, so you don't want that dog to be able to get a hold of little things that it can eat. Otherwise, they're going to show up at our clinic to have them removed surgically. So that includes little toys, batteries. Batteries are very dangerous for dogs. They're cold, they look like little toys, and they'll get a hold of those. Make sure that there aren't any cords exposed that the dog might chew on. Make sure that the munchkins around the house put their clothes in the hamper. Otherwise, the dogs might chew on the clothing, and we've removed socks and underwear. So make sure that they can't fall down off of balconies. That, you know, sometimes the railings are high and the dogs might go off, or down the stairs. So you have to be able to have a gate to keep them where they're safe as well.
Want to add to that, Whitney? Or
trash cans are a biggie. We've had a few gotten into the trash can and ate chicken bones or things like that. Trash cans with lids, or put them somewhere where they're not accessible to
there's
a pet.
some foods around the home that must be avoided.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So chocolate is one. We love our chocolate, but it can be very toxic to dogs, especially the baking kind, the unsweetened baking kind. Xylitol, which is an artificial sweetener that you'll find in gums and candies, and now even in
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter has xylitol in it. Dogs cannot have xylitol. It can cause liver failure and life-threatening hypoglycemia.
So you've seen pictures of, you know, putting the little pill in some peanut butter and giving it to the dog.
You have to make sure there's no xylitol in there.
We recommend using peanut butter in certain scenarios. Just pay attention to your labels. Not all peanut butters have it, but a lot of them are starting to put it in their peanut butter. So just be aware.
Grapes, raisins, currants, don't give your dog oatmeal cookies. It's not a good idea to give them people food anyway, especially fat-laden scraps. You guys eat your steak and you throw the fat to the dogs. Well, they come in with vomiting and diarrhea and pancreatitis, and that can be life-threatening.
People might be deciding, okay, pet, okay, cat or dog? When would a cat be appropriate? Again, breeds might come in, factor in there as well. Are those cats always at shelters too? Or
Oh my goodness,
yeah?
yes.
Overload. Overload of
kitties.
cats.
When might a family with young children consider a cat instead of a dog?
Well, I feel like cats are better at taking care of themselves than dogs are. Dogs
Yes.
need to be exercised and walked and played with, and kitties, they will come and find you when they want to snuggle or play and those sorts of things. So kitties, you can leave the food out in the litter box and they can take care of things on their own. And dogs, you just have to make sure that you have the food and water and the right amount, because dogs are notorious overeaters, and make sure that they get the exercise that they need. So if you want something that's a little less work, a kitty cat would be up for that.
And cats can be as kid friendly as dogs.
Absolutely.
And for seniors, are there times when cats might be a better solution? Or for
I think same
than a
reason.
Dog? Yeah.
Same reason. They generally can take care of themselves. It's a lot of times most you have to do is make sure they're fed and watered and clean their litter box, and they're good to go.
What pets just aren't a good idea at Christmas time, or any time maybe?
Okay, I don't like wild animals as pets. Sometimes you can tame them down, but usually you can't. A lot of them carry diseases. Raccoons can carry rabies, plague, and tularemia. So can squirrels. And I just don't think it's a good idea to bring that into your home. They are unpredictable.
If you're traveling for the holidays and you have a dog and maybe you haven't traveled before, how can we make that a more pleasant experience? Are there things that we can do beforehand to make that more pleasant?
Practice, practice, practice. Whether it's driving around the block with them, across town, to the next nearest town and back, just see how they do. And if you
is a crate always the best idea, or is that necessary?
Not always. I don't think. I had one cat in my lifetime that never needed a crate in the car. I had one that absolutely needed it because he would freak out.
So a crate can be a gentling experience. They have their own space. It's smaller, it's not so big, and they can't see all the stuff going by. So it's not a bad idea. You just need to make sure it's on a level plane. You don't want to put Kitty in and have him like scrunched up into the back, because that's uncomfortable and scary. You want your trips to be, and your practice trips to be, a good experience. So whether that means treats, start short ones to start with, just in and out of the car the first time, and then down the driveway the second time. They come in, they get a treat, it's easy peasy. Don't take them out for the first time and scare the living daylights out of them. You've got to make sure you stay under that threshold of fear.
Crate's always a good idea to sleep in at night. Is it never a bad idea, I guess, for lack of a better description? I grew up with a dog, and we never had a crate, and then later family members have gotten pets and they have crates, and something we weren't aware of, quite frankly.
Especially with dogs, in primitive era, they're a den creature. I think that anytime you're training a puppy or a new dog, I think a crate is a good idea. It gives them their own space, and it needs to be somewhere where they feel safe. They don't get punished in their kennel. They don't do anything that way. So
you see sometimes maybe kennel if they're in trouble, and that shouldn't be used that way necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. I think initially training a dog for a crate should be a pleasant experience. They get fed in their kennel. They get treats in their kennel.
A toy,
something like that. So they know that that's their safe place. And as far as telling them to kennel, I think it is their safe place. So if they're in trouble, they know that that's where they're supposed to go, and that's they can't be punished in their kennel, anything that way.
And what are good responsibilities for children involved now with pets in the home? What might parents expect that their kids can do and can't do relative to pets?
They can feed the right amount, and I do want everyone to be feeding the right amount. Don't just fill the bowl, kind of a thing. We need to know and provide the calories that pet needs, so that we're not overdoing it or underdoing it. So once the munchkin knows how much to feed, they can do that. They can keep the water bowl full, clean it out every day, fresh water. It's a job that they can do, but it has to be overseen by an adult. You can't just assume that little munchkin is going to be able to remember to do it every day. You have to check it and make sure it's getting done. Absolutely. They can clean up the yard. Always remember that feces can have parasites that are infectious to humans. Hookworms, roundworms, and even tapeworms can be infectious to humans. So wash their hands, make sure they're cleaning up the yard every day, and make sure that they're on that monthly dewormer to keep them from carrying them.
Let's talk about veterinary care for animals, pets or cats. There is an expense there that people should plan for.
Absolutely.
What do we know about that?
Okay, so when you have a dog or a cat, you know you're going to have to feed them and water them and have toys and beds and all those sorts of things, but you don't always know what's going to happen to them health-wise. You definitely need to check in with your vet when you get your dog or cat and plan for your vaccination schedule. As puppies, they're going to need them at 8, 12, and 16 weeks, then again at a year, and then based on the vaccines that your veterinarian gives or what your dog needs. Like if they're kenneling, they're going to need Bordetella every year. We do leptospirosis every year because it's a bacteria that we have here. So there's some things that are going to be different across the country, but those definitely need to be on your list of things to save for. And then things like accidentally getting hit by a car if they're lost, or getting an illness that you didn't prepare for, or cancer. 1 in 5 dogs is going to have cancer in their lifetimes. So these are expenses that can add up. So if you've got a little savings account, or if you want to get pet insurance, you can get health insurance for your pet these days, and that's a smart investment.
What does that cost?
It depends on your plan. You can do anything from a wellness plan that's going to take care of those vaccinations and dentals and things like that, to just, catastrophic things like he breaks a leg or ruptures a cruciate or something, and it would take care of surgery. So depending on what you want to invest and what you want to take care of, depends on.
Are we
the price of
talking
your plan.
like $50, $100 a month, or is there a price that we can put to that?
I'm going to tell you a minimum of $10 or $11 a month to up to $25 to $50 a month, depending on your plan.
You talked about kenneling. Sometimes people travel and they don't want to travel with their pets, and they want a kennel. What should they look for in a kennel? And is there any way to prepare the animal for that experience? Because it may not be a positive experience, I guess, in some instances.
Okay. So you want to make sure you take your own food so that your pet gets to eat what he's used to. You want to make sure you have a special toy, maybe the bedding. You may not always get it back in the same shape that you took it, because your dog's going to act a little bit differently at the kennel. But you want to make sure he has everything that makes him comfortable at home. We also have some pheromone sprays that you can spray around. It just kind of is a settling sense that they get that says everything is okay. So the pheromone sprays are a good idea as well.
Spray it around the kennel area itself?
You just send it with your puppy dog, and they'll spritz it down every day and just make your dog feel more comfortable. When you're looking for kennels, you want to make sure you find a kennel. You go in, you look, and you make sure all the kennels are clean, the dogs are happy, they're getting walked and exercised at least 2 to 3 times a day, sometimes more. Maybe they have an activity yard where the dogs get to play together. The cats, you want to make sure that they have at least 3 feet between their bed and their litter box, or they're going to get upset. So lots of little things like that. You also want to make sure you have all your vaccinations up to date and proof of that when you go in.
Yeah. Whitney, adding to that?
I would say when looking at a facility, choose a facility that absolutely requires vaccine updates. That's a lot of times where some of these, like kennel cough, will spread, is because they're in such close proximity to the nearest animal. If they're not requiring vaccines, you may have vaccinated yours, and the next 2 haven't been vaccinated, and suddenly these 2 are sick, and there's just a lot of cross-contamination just inherently because it's a dog facility or a cat facility.
Ever a good idea to leave the pet just at home and just have the neighbor boy check on the pet 2 or 3 times a day?
I think so in certain situations. Mine, I can. Some dogs have anxiety and can't be left that way. They need that constant contact, especially if you're going to be gone for long periods of time.
Any breeds that are more, people have to go, the kids go to school, the parents go to work, so there is a period in the day when that pet is left alone, and if someone's thinking about getting a pet for the holidays for their family, what's a breed that maybe does better in that environment when they might be alone for 6-8 hours a day?
I love how you would like us to lump everything
Right.
into a breed. We are racially profiling here, I'm just saying. So there can be, take Labradors for example. Whitney
Right.
mentioned the ones that like to sit by your legs and just hang out with you. There are others that just drag you around the yard and are like a fish on a line.
And the age of the breed, right?
Exactly.
It makes
They
a
may start
difference.
out wild and crazy and they kind of wear themselves out, and then as they get older, they're just happy to be relaxed. So
It's more choosing a breed that, if you're going to have a strictly indoor dog, and you're going to be gone during the day and it's going to be left alone likely, don't choose a breed that's used to running around. Like a herding breed
or a pointer
will get bored in your house, and you're more likely to have things like chewed on furniture. They just get anxiety because they need to move. They need to have a job. And it's not all cases. I mean, there's plenty of healers that I've seen that just lay at your feet and they don't do anything all day.
or a quiet border collie. But they're
Quiet
few and
border
far
collie, but
between.
But again, the shelter can kind of help
they can
provide
direct you.
information on temperament and whether in a person's living situation may or may not be a good fit.
Right.
For families that already have pets, they might be Christmas shopping for that little dog or cat. What are toys to avoid? Let's start there first, or little gifts that really aren't a good idea for
Okay,
pets.
number one, anything that they could swallow easily. We don't want them consuming them. Number 2, anything that is so hard that you can't dent it with your fingernail, because if they chew on something that's harder than you can dent with your fingernail, they can break their teeth, and then we'll be seeing them to remove slab fractured
Like
big teeth.
some of those rawhide bones you see might fit in that category, or
Those can be softened up a little bit, but rawhide bones can be too hard sometimes. If you have a guy who really needs to chew, you can soften it up just a little bit by soaking it in water, but you also don't want them to swallow big bits of it either, because those don't digest very well. So, Whitney, you want to add on some?
I don't like plush toys.
give me an example.
Like anything with the, polyester filling, that can really cause damage in the intestinal system. And again, we see a lot of them where they're impacted, and we have to go in surgically and remove those type of toys, because it's fun to shred them. It's fun to get fluff all over the house, but it's not. It can turn into a scary scenario really quickly, and those are expensive surgeries. And they're scary, especially if you don't know that it's happened. If the dog
it can happen in 5 minutes.
Dog or cat even that has swallowed that and you don't know that it's happened, you wait 2-3 days, they're now a critical situation.
Right.
String and tinsel for cats is not a good idea.
In that situation, you've traveled, you're in a foreign town or a home you're not used to, and you need emergency care.
Okay.
You should probably plan for that too.
Absolutely. So if you don't have a family member there who has a pet that can recommend a veterinary hospital, you can always go online to the American Animal Hospital Association's website. That's AHA for short. And they're a hospital association that's held to a higher standard. So the veterinarians that are AHA members hold themselves to very high standards, and so you know that when you go there you're going to have this level of care. So if you're not sure and you can't get a recommendation from your family or from your friends that you're visiting, then go to the AHA website.
Okay. I'm bringing my dog to the family festivities at Christmas, and no one else in my family has pets. What should I tell my other family members that might have smaller children who've never been around a pet? How can I make, without offending anyone, just let them know that there are some things we need to think about when we bring our dog with us here to the family gathering at Christmas?
So we're going to want to dog-proof the home, so you're going to mention those things that we talked about earlier. And you also want to make sure that the kids know not to move quickly or yell or pull the ears or pull the tail or pull the hair, or, just treat it like a precious little doll, and maybe not, though, picking it up.
Yeah.
They can get in trouble there. So you want to make sure that the children have safe behavior around your pet. You know what your pet will tolerate. Make sure that everyone stays within those parameters.
Anything to add there, Whitney? If I'm bringing a pet into a grandma's house and grandma's never had pets in her house, and all of a sudden we're going to have 20 people there for a couple hours having a great meal.
Obviously, making sure they know that your pet is coming. Don't just show up unannounced with your dog and or cat or whatever you may be traveling with, but also be respectful of where you are going. If they don't want dogs in the kitchen, don't have your dog in the kitchen. I say a lot of people get frustrated with that. If your dog's a beggar, don't let them around when they're eating. That just be respectful. I think it would be good for everyone in the home, including the pet.
And ask the person that you're visiting if there's a quiet place that the dog can rest when it needs a quiet time.
Okay. What do people not think about when they think about getting the dog for the first time? Like, we get the dog, and what is it that's most forgotten? That we just don't, we're new at this, so we really didn't plan ahead.
Several things. We mentioned the expense of a pet. For dogs, anywhere from $5,000 to $30,000 in their lifetime, and for a cat, a little bit less. So you have to think about those expenses going in, and then the time, and what are you going to do when you're gone, and how are you going to exercise this pet if something happens, or those sorts of things.
Other things that families may not think about.
There's a lot of people that don't actually think about deworming their pets, which I found shocking coming into this business. Deworming doesn't just protect your animal, it protects you. Probably more than the animal, because the parasites they get can affect us worse than it affects them. Vaccine schedules, some people think that they don't have to vaccinate yearly or every 3 years depending on the vaccine. People don't understand that when they go in, so they don't understand there's going to be a yearly vet bill even if it's just for vaccines.
Or wellness.
or wellness exams.
Yeah. We talked earlier about trying to get information from a shelter. Where else can people go? Obviously, there are many good online resources.
Okay, so the AHA website I mentioned has a site for owners. AVMA has a website too. American Veterinary Medical Association is going to have good information. There's a lot of bad information on the internet too, so I want you to check with your veterinarian before you go looking on the website for information, because there's a lot of stuff that is not effective and harmful out on the internet for pet owners. Let's see.
A lot of the oils and supplements that people use, tea tree oil and those kind of things, people find beneficial for, me, is not good for a dog or a cat. And
Can be toxic.
we have a tendency to think that if it's good for me, it must be good for the dog, but it's not. It's not always the case, and looking into those types of things is always a good idea on any of these websites, or just with your veterinarian.
All right, a question I got to ask. We've got this new pet and it's not potty trained. And again, we don't want to be too general, but what's the best way to get after that and get it done right as quickly as we can so that it works?
Okay, potty training starts the minute you get that little munchkin home. You want to make sure you're taking them out as often as they need to before they have an accident. So you want to be proactive, and you want to be really encouraging when you go outside. And Whitney and I can get them trained to voice command very quickly. You just take them outside, put them where they want to go, you watch, and then when they go, good potty, or whatever word you want to be for number 1 or number 2, you just say good potty and then give them a treat, and then pretty soon they're like, oh, if I do that, I get a treat, and you're way ahead of things. Do not let them wander around in the home without you watching. When they start sniffing, pick them up, just really excited, and go outside and say go potty or go poo or whatever you want them to do, and make sure that they don't have an accident. Don't punish them when they do, or they're going to go and hide and do it.
Ah, interesting. Because you see people punish the SWAT in the rear, throw them outside. And
old logic is put their nose in it and throw them outside. It's not always a good idea.
They just get afraid of you.
Kennels crates that are too small or too big can be an issue too. Generally, very generally, they won't pee and poop where they sleep.
Okay.
So if you have a kennel that's just big enough for them to sleep in, stand up, turn around, lay down, they generally won't pee there. But if you have one they have 2 sides to, they may pee here and sleep here.
We have just about 30 seconds left. Generally speaking, again, sleeping arrangements. Good to be out in the living room in a quiet place, or in with Johnny and Sally, who are first graders and all excited about everything all the time. What's the best way to handle that with a new pet in the house?
I like to put them where they have their own space. If you have a spare room or a laundry room or somewhere like that where they can have their space, I think that's better than sleeping in the bedrooms. They can get distracted. They hear you, they whine, they cry, you pay attention to them. Now you're opposing your kennel training. You're hurting yourself in your kennel training because you're taking them out because they're crying.
The most recent article I read said that it affects our sleep patterns adversely to have them in our beds. That being said, I have a dog and a cat in my bed every night.
And they sleep with me too. But if I put him in his kennel, he will sleep there.
Right.
So generalities always don't apply.
Right.
We've learned.
I say kennel training first, definitely.
Yes.
Okay.
Beyond that.
Well, Whitney Ponce and Amy Stockton, thank you so very much for visiting with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having
Wyoming
us.
Chronicle, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.